Welcome to Cosmic ASSplorations podcast, curated by the cosmos, narrated by Feva Cristina. Hello. Exploring the universe in and of us through a cosmic storytelling of astrology. I want to welcome you to this cheeky journey of sensual shadow play as we claim our liberated authentic expression through expanded pleasure and playful embodiment as a new default for living and loving. Hello, cosmic lovers, and all of you beautiful humans who have found your way here today. I'm so excited because I have someone extremely special to my heart to introduce to you today. I like to refer to her as my Norwegian wifey. And once I even sent someone a photo of her, and then I was like, oh, but like she's really cheeky. And that person was like, I can see it in her eyes. Eline Wigestrand, milady, hello.
Hello there.
When I tell people about you, which I do all the time, I say that this is the woman whose babies I would have. Like, I would have your babies. I would do everything with you whole life. Like, I don't think I've ever met anyone like you, you know? If there's like a soulmate concept in friendships, I feel
Yeah.
like I feel that in you. So thank you so
Oh,
much for being here today.
thank
How
you.
are you?
Thank you for that introduction. It's beautiful.
Mm.
And I agree. It's yeah, no, but it's like a soulmate type of situation.
Mm.
Very comfortable from the get-go.
Mm.
Yeah.
And not only are you the amazing goddess angel of this earth, you also do some really cool stuff. And I had a pleasure to experience your breathwork sessions, which I have to say have been the most aligned and resonant that I have ever
Mm,
attended in any way.
mm,
And
mm,
I would love for you to tell us more about what you do, what calls to you, what's been in your focus in your life
mm,
what's been at the focus in your life in the
mhm.
recent years and what got you there.
Yeah. Well, yes, I do breathwork. I hold rebirthing breathwork sessions.
What is
Um, what is that? Ooh, good one.
that?
So, well, really, it's a type of breath work where we do conscious connective breathing. That's like the basics of it, where you don't really have a pause between the exhale and the inhale. We keep a continuous breath cycle going for up to 40-45 minutes to get in contact with ourselves. Yeah,
Mm,
to get in contact with parts of ourselves that are not so easily available to us, to get in contact with our true essence, to get into contact with our bodies. I heard someone say once about breathwork that we're not breathing to have an out of body experience. We're breathing
mm,
to have an in our body experience.
yeah.
And that really resonates. I feel like that kind of sums up what I want
Mm,
to do, what
mm.
I want to offer. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is something that we definitely very much connected on, like this kind of grounded, embodied, very practical sense of spirituality, which
Mm.
is not about transcending, no, or ascending. Well, transcendence happens naturally, but it's not about
Mhm.
ascending somewhere into the 5D dimension. Although, I mean, I don't know
I
how
mean, it
to
happens.
put that. But that happens once you descend into the body.
Mm,
And I love how earthy you are, you know,
mm.
double Virgo, Virgo ascendant, Virgo sun,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and with that Scorpio moon that brings the depth and the
Yeah.
juiciness, edge. It is the perfect combination that really allows you to see things clearly, structurally, if, approach things efficiently, but with this depth of understanding of what true intimacy with ourselves, with our
Mm,
essence means.
mm,
And it's the breathwork session that I had with you was really unique because you don't push people over the edge, but with
mm,
this wisdom of the natural rhythm capacity of the body, the
mm,
language of, well, the nervous system nourishment.
Mm.
Yeah, it was a very gentle experience, but in the gentleness, the depths kind of rose up rather than we pushing them through, you know?
Exactly. Like me and my breathwork teacher, we always say slow is the new deep. So you really capture the essence of it right there. Yeah, and I agree. This is totally what I feel like we connected on. Okay, so we are spiritual girls. We love astrology. We love these things. We love the magic of it all. Um, but we're also just girls. We're just women hanging out. We're just two humans doing human things.
Hmm.
And I think that's what really, yeah, deeply, deeply resonated when we first met,
Mm-hmm.
is yes, the spiritual and the practical.
Yeah.
Yes, the cosmic and the body.
Absolutely. And that is the Virgo archetype in all of us, the one that
Mm,
is bridging this ethereal, esoteric wisdom on the axis of Pisces, which is
mm,
definitely something that we're gonna be diving into as the central topic of today's podcast episode, where we are currently experiencing our Saturn return in Pisces. So
yeah.
to take this spiritual essence, but then your Virgo is like, okay, but how do we bring it into the everyday? How do we make it so that it becomes a part of this physical reality to bring this holistic alignment through? So I want to know,
Mm,
how does this look in your life? What are you prioritizing to nourish this spiritual essence through your work, Virgo, and
mm.
your service to the world, really? Because it's not the work,
Mm,
it's the service that is at the core here.
mm. Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think it's one that I ask myself a lot.
Mm.
Um, because how do you do that? And I think for most of my life, I've been going between almost like two worlds, like the really practical, grounded, um, established system type of world that we live in and that I live in and that I come from. And then this other world, which is spiritual and magical and doesn't make sense in the same way. And so, in a way, my whole life, my yes, my work, my service, but also my day-to-day life has been about figuring out how can I do both at the same time with integrity.
Mm.
Um, so I guess it's like a learning curve still. But my yeah, but my biggest um I guess focus right now is the body,
Mhm.
because here those two worlds really do combine, because we have a whole cosmos inside of us and we can access it and we can reach it through stillness, through breathing, through meditation, through doing the dishes, through hanging out with your best girlfriend, like so in a way kind of finding the magical in the mundane,
Mm.
um and then it isn't really so mundane.
Mm.
Yeah, I think both through my work, through my service with the body, and also in my daily life, like that's where I try to find some of the magic. Does this make sense?
Oh, hell yeah. Like you just brought that essence of this Virgo wisdom, this Virgo medicine, that I feel like it's so, so, so important too, because it is about combining all of these different layers of ourselves so that they're not in fragmentation. And exactly
Mm.
what you said, this universe, this cosmos inside the body, that is Tantra, baby. This is
Mm.
why I call my approach Tantric astrology, because
Mm.
look at how this what is this universe that lives inside of us? How do we
Mm.
work with these cosmic, sacred, vast energies that are reflected not only inside our bodies, but are
Mm.
reflected all around us? How do they
Mm.
connect us? How do they influence one another in this cosmic dance? And this big Virgo question that is, how can I be of the deepest, highest, truest service to the
Mm.
world, to humanity, to what I believe in? My
Yeah.
purpose, the
Mm.
liberation, whatever you
This is
want to name it. Mm-hmm.
and this is also why I resonate so deeply with your tea ceremonies, because if you're looking from the outside, we're just drinking a cup of tea.
Mm.
But while I'm in your session, you're holding the space and you're like a cosmic ass being, so you know it's gonna be wild. We're just drinking a cup of tea and I'm having, yeah, insane revelations. I'm
Mm,
having magical experiences
mm.
and I'm just looking into my cup of tea, you know? So yeah, we definitely align on these things.
Yes, yes, yes. And, this is such a beautiful reminder of how literally anything can be a spiritual practice when done with
Yes.
intentionality, with presence, with
Hmm.
openness, curiosity, when you consciously connect
Yeah.
through the subtlety, right?
Yeah.
The
Oh,
simplicity, the lost art
it
of,
is.
yeah, of
And
healing.
sorry, my favorite meme, we love
Bring
memes.
it.
Yeah, it's the one where it says, everybody wants to do ayahuasca, nobody wants to do the dishes.
Yeah.
It's kind of the essence of this in a way. And I
Mm,
feel like that's the perfect bridge to our Saturn return and Saturn in Pisces, actually, because it's, for me, it's about trying to find some of the joy and the happiness
mm,
and the magical inside of Saturn's more structural way of being, and like kind of forcing me to grow up a little bit and
exactly.
doing that in a way that I can keep myself.
The integrity. Our
Yeah.
integrity. That's a big Saturn word. So let's break it down for those who want to get nerdy with us on what is Saturn return. And we're going to start with the daddy Saturn, we like to call him. Um,
Yeah.
that is one of the generational planets, meaning that different generations, and we are the same generation, we're basically just less than a month apart. Uh,
Yeah.
love that for us.
Yeah.
Different generations have these bigger themes in common where we collectively, a generation incarnates to work specifically on one topic, on one theme, based on the energetic initiations of the cosmos at the time we were born. And so Saturn is really seen as this structure maker, the strict daddy of the zodiac, the one that brings the discipline, the one
Mm.
that wants us to mature. So Saturn is the ring planet, right? And this is beautifully what you kind of proposed with your reflection. The ring planet, meaning there's like almost like this border around him that creates
Mm.
a sense of boundaries.
Mm.
So Saturn reflects how we learn to set boundaries, respect boundaries in the world. How do we meet the challenges and responsibly uh, create commitments in our lives that are serving our deepest greater purpose, that it's not only our personal, but it is for the greater good. It's a wider picture,
Mm.
long-term strategy that Saturn wants us to employ. And so
Mm.
Saturn invites us to work within certain structures. So,
Mm.
what are the structures that are benefiting us, that are good for us, that help us mature and grow? Because that's what Saturn wants from us.
Mhm.
Not to be serious, but to be committed to something that truly matters to us, that
Mm.
we came here in this lifetime to master.
Mm.
So,
And
it
yeah,
asks,
the daddy vibe with like delayed gratitude,
delayed
like to
gratitude.
work towards something, to getting the, that's why it's also a little bit like spicy
Okay.
daddy vibes for me. Yeah.
Yes, for sure, because Saturn is all about growth and maturity. And what they say is actually that Saturn delays, but it does not deny. It just
Mm.
wants to, I don't like to think test you, but it is checking your commitment.
Yeah.
How committed are you? How devoted are you to creating a certain impact in the world, to sharing
Mm.
your gifts, to being a part of something bigger, greater?
Mm.
And Saturn, astrologically, also governs time. It's a planet of karma. So, what are the challenges your soul has chosen to overcome in this lifetime in order to evolve and mature into more of its purpose?
Mm.
And what are the cycles of life that you need to respect, right? The boundaries in order to actually bring certain completions, to develop, in a sense, to develop the right skills, the right capabilities, and apply the skills and the knowledge that you have in responsible, realistic way that are
Mm.
supporting the outcome and the result of what you came here to build. And
Yeah.
so Saturn return is kind of like a graduation of that,
Yeah.
right? You've been in the school
Mm.
of life for a while, and then between ages 27 to 30, it really depends. It's when Saturn enters the sign in which it was when you were born. You can check in your natal charts for the two of us. That falls into Pisces. So during the Saturn return, it's that graduation,
Yeah.
the final exams, in a way,
Mm.
period, where it might feel more difficult and challenging, slower, more restrictive if you haven't been putting the work prior to your Saturn
Mm.
return and looking into those areas for
Mm.
learning about it. But this is like, what tests do you need to pass? Because Saturn wants to reward you on the other side.
Yeah, exactly.
However, in Pisces, right? It's all about Pisces being the last sign of the zodiac, which really connects us to this deeper subconscious realms of collective consciousness, of transcendental, of outwardly. It's the sign of spirituality. And that in a way brings through the past life karma. It brings through your soul's deepest lessons, whatever you've been kind of journeying through different dimensions. It's about spiritual growth. It's about bringing completion endings to karmic contracts, Saturn likes contracts, right? That
Mm-hmm.
have reached its expiration, or you got to bring the expiration to learn
Yeah.
what you've already lived through, to deal with your karmic consequences and past life debts, and then
Mm.
bring them into something solid that is beneficial to your path ahead.
Mm.
And so we're going to be diving into this soul's lessons that we have been facing on our own path that I'm sure are very much applicable to, well, a lot of people, because these
Mm.
are some of the universal themes. Pisces has to do with our soul's journey. And sometimes the way we like to go in either into avoidance of our responsibilities in this lifetime, into escapism, or also fantasy, because Pisces brings
Yeah.
beautiful dreams, imagination out, but how are you actually working with that? Are you being
Yeah.
realistic? Not in like limited, but are you
Yeah.
putting the effort to ground it? And we're back to the Virgo themes. So, what are you
Yeah.
learning, healing, and completing through your Saturn return?
Mm-hmm.
That's the one.
Mm.
Okay.
Good one.
What comes up
Also,
for you around that?
yeah, I was just thinking, I remember, so I'm interested in astrology, so I knew about my Saturn return before it started, and it sounds scary, you
Mm-hmm,
know?
mm-hmm,
Um, and I think it's important, or what was has been important for me is to kind of shift my
mm.
view on it from being something really scary and something really difficult and something that's gonna like, excuse my language, but it's gonna fuck me up.
You can curse on my
To
podcast.
okay, good. Of course to kind of viewing it more as something really deeply positive,
Mm,
transformative, and instead of it being something that whoops you up, I mean, it can really kind of whoop you off your path, but more as in the way of being a course corrector.
yes.
So you're following these lines that you might following these lines because of your old wounds, because of what society told you to do, because da 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 da, and oop, you're actually meant to be over here. Like, yeah.
That's
So
exactly it. And not only that, but because Saturn is about structures in our lives, it comes to shake up those that have no foundation, that have no real purposeful root in your life. So
mm,
if things start falling apart, your world turning upside down during Saturn return, it's like, baby, let it go, let it
yeah.
go, let it flow. This is the time to work with life, not against it, to work
Yeah.
with the current, not against it, to see what needs to be, in a way, adjusted. Um,
Yes.
and what
Yeah.
are you committed to? Because it's going to
Mm.
test you. That's just because something is changing and falling through does not mean that this was not meant for you. No, sometimes it's like maybe not in the way you were approaching it, maybe not right now, maybe something else is needed. So this is
Mm.
where that mastery comes. That is all about
Mm-hmm.
refinement of what is truly needed, and also practicing the self-authority. Saturn is
Mm.
not about giving your power away to external authority. No, 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 no. It's about truly finding that inner guide, that inner wisdom
Mm.
that knows your soul's path more than anyone else in this world.
Mm. I really like what you said there about it might not be, if something is falling apart, it might not be that it's not completely meant for you, but what about fine tuning it,
Yeah.
approaching it from a different angle? And it just made me think of when I started doing my breath work,
Yeah.
after a couple of rounds of holding my first events alone and doing this work and like going out from schooling and into working, realizing it didn't really, I think I had put a lot of hopes on it to fulfill me, to give me something. And then it didn't really do that. And I had lots of rounds thinking like, I don't think this work is for me. I had a longer break where I didn't do any breath work for myself or for other people. And I thought, in quite typical me manner, like, oh, there we go again. Like, it's not for me. I've tried a new path and it's just hopeless and da da da, very much like you said. And then now, um, this year and last year, kind of coming back to it in a new way, finding out, oh, actually, it wasn't that the whole thing needed to be scrapped. It's just that this and this and this didn't work for me. The way I was approaching it, the way I was holding myself in the sessions, was I actually really taking care of myself after the session? Maybe the reason why I was feeling the way I was feeling can be adjusted. It can be done. I can do something about it,
Yeah.
which has been during these last 2 or 3 years where, yeah, it's a Saturn return. So it makes a
So
lot of sense.
when you come to this point of, okay, this is what I'm passionate about, it's almost like there's no other way but to do that, yet it's not working, it's not meeting my expectations, it feels so hard. When you start meeting all of these challenges, what has kind of helped you navigate that?
Mm. Mm. Well, so, well,
And I just want to add to that,
mhm.
because this can show up in our business, in our work, but it can also show up, let's say, in relationships, right? Because Saturn
Mhm.
is going to add our staying power, your sense of commitment, devotion, right?
Yeah.
Dedication to making something work for the long term.
Mm.
So, what yeah, how do you, and I say this because I know that your Saturn return is in the seventh house of relationships,
Yeah.
committed partnerships. So it's also, the committed partnership you can have with your business or your business partner, your therapist, but
Mhm.
also your committed spouses. Or
Yes.
I don't know, depends.
Yeah. No, it's a perfect bridge because one of the things that I did realize in the midst of feeling a little bit lost, on this path was, well, first of all, that it can be really nice to take a break from things that you love, to let it breathe.
Hmm.
And again, this with time, give it time. It's, what did they say? It's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Yes, exactly. And guess what? All the planets have retrogrades, periods of
Yeah.
seemingly going backwards, but they never
Hmm.
actually go backwards. The retrograde is just a backwards movement from the viewpoint of the Earth, which is so symbolic, right? When we think we're going
Hmm.
backwards, what if we're just going deeper, peeling more?
Hmm.
It's such a precious time of slowing down and being able to re-evaluate. And if
Yeah.
the Saturn, like the strict daddy, the dedicated worker, does that and goes back and forth, I mean, it tells us something about success that is being also kind of attributed to Saturn's hard work. It's like for success, you gotta go backwards sometimes. You gotta
Yeah,
have a sacred pause.
exactly. And I definitely feel like the pause that I gave myself and from my work actually, like, yeah, maybe I was going backwards, but then when I returned, it was like this catapult movement where I was like, ooh, then I was
Mhm.
light years ahead from from my understandings that I've had about my work from before. Um, so that was really helpful, and kind of practicing trust during that time also, um, relinquishing control a little bit of needing to know every little thing about when it was going to happen, how it was going to happen, and kind of, okay, trusting a little bit. And one of the biggest lessons that came out of um, refining or going through my how I work, um, something that was really helpful has been to keep track of after every breathwork session. Something I learned in my education was to ask myself what worked,
Mhm.
what didn't work, what do I want to do differently next time. And
Mm.
going through these in this period of rest, a topic came up again and again, and it's funnily enough, I want to do this together with other people. So relationships.
Mm.
I
Leave
don't want to do this
North
work.
Node.
Yeah, that also.
Yeah, it
I'm
is.
not here to do this work all alone. I want to do it together with other people.
And I see a lot of people really coming back to that. Has been such a big theme of my life. And my personal Saturn return in whole house system is happening in the fifth house. That has to do with creative projects, with what I'm passionate about, with self-expression. And it has been hitting my cosmic explorations playground that has been such a oh, pillar of my heart, and my creative flow and juices. And at the same time, I've been meeting with the same. I don't want to do it alone. And at the same time, everything has its own timing. So
Yeah.
am I now trying to force some idea that I have created in my head that my astrology confirms in the wrong phase of life? Like, how do you then navigate? You said you got to go back to trust. Um,
Mm. Which is more easily said than done.
yeah.
I think a lot of very often I can, so life goes up and down, my emotions goes up and down. And when I'm on a more of a down period, I can really find myself holding a lot of shame for kind of trusting an invisible process. You know, like, am I dumb to kind of believe in something that I can't see?
Mm,
Because the structure, the systems that the world mostly works in is one of control, of knowing what's going to happen. You apply for an education, and then there's going to be a job after that, and then and so yes, trust and
Well, if anyone, it is generation with Saturn in Pisces that is actually strengthening the trust in invisible, because Pisces is the
mm,
invisible and is
yeah,
that which is beyond, which you can only,
mm,
which you can sense it, you can see it, you can feel it though, but it doesn't have tangible evidence. The
mm,
evidence is your flow, what you do with the trust that you have.
yeah,
The evidence is in your well-being, in
mm,
the way that you bring this trust into the world in a way. And that's what
yeah,
Saturn wants us to do. How do we bring that deep soul guidance into the world,
yes,
and into our connections?
yeah. And I think for me, finding sort of a balance between this, like, relinquishing control and being like, yeah, I just trust the universe, I go with the flow, because that's where I've been a
Mm,
lot in my life, as sort of an escape from actually uh, taking the steps that needs to be taken. I feel like going into my Saturn return, I'm being like, my bones are being like cracked into place of someone who knows how to take more responsibility of my own journey. So yes, trust, and yes, take time, trust, relax, meditate, but also what are the steps, kind of like you were saying, what are the steps you need to take to create a solid ground for yourself? Can I find safety, like kind of like the pyramid of needs, you know, like
Mm.
um, to pursue my work, to pursue my dreams, I also need a certain level of stability. And how can I get that?
Yeah.
How, do you know what I'm saying?
I absolutely do. It's about completion circle, right? Like this
Yeah.
is something that we often get wrong. And this is something we chatted about yesterday on a phone call where, it was kind of, I know for me, it's been a big part of my business evolution where I'm like, oh, this is not working, this is not la la la, and I don't know what to do with that. And well, what I'm personally experiencing is a lot of resistance towards online business, a lot of resentment towards the systems that we need to be a part of that I disagree with, that I don't find is in my integrity, or it doesn't resonate with my values, the way that I want to show up, serve the
Yeah.
world, connect with other people. So what do I do then, right? If I
What are some of the things that you don't want to do, or like what are some examples of that?
so I'm noticing what is really draining my energy, and that's been the online space, especially social media. But it's a
Mm.
two-sword thing because I love to connect, I love to post trash on no 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 no, I'm not gonna trash on
It's
myself
not,
right
it's not trash.
now.
No.
But like, let's say trash is fun for raccoons, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Every trash is a treasure for someone else, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Mm. But I love to casually post on stories, but with this intentionality of like, I need to now create a post to convert, to educate people about the modalities that I use, or that, basically to sell. I feel a
Mm.
lot of resistance. And I've done a lot of money work. So I don't think it's really, I've cleared a lot of unconscious beliefs about money's bad. I'm not capable of having a lot of money, la 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 la. But it's also even just in the intentionality, right? Why do I want to sell? What do I want to make money for? What is in my integrity? And this sense of integrity, it's actually in my life's mission, the gift in
Yeah.
Gene Keys, the gift frequency of my
Mm.
life's mission is integrity. And so,
Mm.
how do I be a part of the system that I find rotten? That social media is hijacking our attention, basically destroying our brain waves. I think I read somewhere like an average person spends 12 years altogether scrolling on social media. And I'm like, wait, and I'm now gonna create reels that are gonna be
Yeah.
contributing to that? I don't
Yeah.
know if I'm okay with that. I'm gonna
Mm.
create another online course that then it's yeah, that's been a big one for me.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I
Why
hear you.
why am I following certain strategies? Are they actually in alignment
Mm.
with me?
Mm.
Especially when there are capitalistic, patriarchal, not to get too into that, um, glazed. So
Yeah.
to approach it in my own way, what works for
Mm.
my design, that's why I do what I do with astrology, human design, Jinki, is to actually help people attune to what is the most easeful, natural, efficient way for them to function in the world. But
Mm.
when that doesn't go with the systems that have been established, we need to change those systems. And that is what Capricorn and Saturn are actually about, not to keep reinforcing tradition and old systems, but to actually evolve them.
Mm.
So how do we
Yeah.
do that?
Yeah, how do we do that?
That is that forging the path. And I think
Mm.
it's something that you said yesterday on a call too, about this girl that you've been collaborating with. And you're like, you know what I really like about her? What did you say?
Well, she's asking all the questions. Um, well,
Yeah,
what did I say about her?
you said she
Yeah.
dares to ask stupid
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She dares to ask what everyone probably is wondering, you know, like why should I care? Why should I care about the world? Why, how does that, well, let me, yeah, find it again. But basically, just daring to question the things that already are in a way.
Yeah, why is
I,
that
yeah.
so? Why should I care? Why do we
Mm-hmm.
do things like this? Like, I feel like this is what the real leaders and change makers
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Willing to ask the stupid questions,
Yeah.
not just try to fit into a certain system. It's time for us to evolve it.
Mm,
And
mm.
that's a scary one, and that's a tough one.
That's a scary one, and especially with the online space, like you're saying, because there are certain things that work. So pushing your agenda, selling yourself is a part of the, dare I say, like older paradigm. Like it's always worked. That's how it works. So how can we forge a new way where it gets to still work,
Yeah.
but in the way that you want it to.
It's not about creating sales content, it's about
Mhm.
providing value, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Hmm.
Yeah. And it's interesting when we look at your chart, your midheaven, which is the line of impact, the way you're here to serve, the way you're here to be also recognized for what you do, the way you create this service in
Yeah.
a very like direct, applicable way that affects people, is in Gemini. So it's very much in a way connected. Well, first of all, Gemini in astrology is connected to the lungs, by the
Mm.
way.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
damn girl, that's like a new.
Yeah,
Never
and
heard
it's
about
about
that.
education. It's about
Yeah.
teaching, learning, connecting, networking, bringing people together, in a very through curiosity, through this
Mm,
innocent exploration of let's connect, let's
mm,
exchange information, let's exchange experiences, let
mhm.
let's write a story together,
Yeah.
way we engage.
It has been kind of a struggle for me to figure out how to go about that. And like the online space is a really good place for it because you do get to connect with so many people. You do get to share and learn at the same time continuously. Um, and I guess when you called me yesterday and was like, girl, should we do a podcast episode? I had a little bit of a, maybe that's a place to start.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is
Mm.
connected. And I mean, too many Janis, they meet next day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But no, I think trying out and testing out different ways of expressing myself, of sharing, um, not necessarily, well, sharing my knowledge, but like just sharing me, um,
Yeah.
and testing out different ways of doing that. Instead of, I was just explaining to you, like very typical Virgo control freak of me is like sitting behind the window, looking out the window, seeing all the different paths that I could possibly take in my life or in my work, or how to express myself, or finding my medium, and then trying to see all the way in the end, like how's that gonna, but what's gonna happen next? And I need to stop doing that and get outside the door, start walking a path, testing out things, trying out ways to express myself, of getting my message across, and through experimentation finding out what works.
And I think I heard somewhere, I'm not going to quote this well, but it's like the quality of your breath dictates the quality of your life.
Yeah, true, eh?
So how are you noticing that in yourself, in your work, in your path, the way that you are here to experiment?
Hmm. My breath.
Yeah, like what role does breath, how can our breath not only
Mm-hmm.
be our greatest tool because it's free and accessible to everyone, but
Yeah,
also in a way a guide to
yeah,
help
yeah.
us know in the way that you were saying, I need to experiment to forge my path. How can we
Mm,
engage our breath to support us in the journey
mm.
that can sometimes be edgy and scary and confusing? And then it takes our breath away, either from excitement or from scarcity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, like creating a relationship with your breath, and then it has so many layers, because what does that mean? How do you do that? But getting to know your breath, feeling your breath on a day-to-day basis, checking in with it. How am I breathing right now? When you're around someone, how am I breathing right now? Um, can be like a really good indicator of uh, how you're doing and how you feel about something.
It's how
Mm.
your breath will dictate the way you're able to dance through life. Is your breath deep? relaxed, right? Is that how you are able to then move through life? Or is it
Mm.
shallow and fast-paced? And how does that affect your nervous system, your sense of
Mhm.
well-being? And how often very much of very somatic physical experiences dictate our emotional experience, and vice versa, of course.
Yeah.
If we come back to the Saturn return, if Saturn return is about growth, maturity, learning, I think learning how to breathe, if people learn how to actually breathe, this
Yeah.
world would be a much better place. I
Yeah.
feel like if we learn how to properly breathe, this is something that my client, my Cosmic Drama Club mentorship client once reflected. She was like, I did not know that I didn't know how to breathe before you brought my attention to it. How many
Mhm.
how many people don't know about it? How many people are
Mhm.
unconscious about it? And how many
Yeah.
challenges in the Saturn return um, realm does that create?
Mhm. Yeah.
How has Saturn return been challenging you to mature and grow? Especially, I guess, because it is your seventh house. It is the house of committed relationship, the way you relate to other people, the way you seek perhaps stability and commitment
Mm.
through your relationships. How has that been kind of affecting your breath?
Yeah, as like an overarching theme, it's I like to say that it's like forcing me to grow up and become an adult and realizing that I've always sought freedom, and I'm now coming to kind of a realization that too much freedom actually just creates a mess for me.
Can you define what does it mean to you to become an adult and what is
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So before, freedom to me was basically just an absence of requirements, I think.
Mm.
Like not having expectations put on me, not needing to be anywhere specific, do anything specific. So I was traveling a lot, not having a job, like just basically doing whatever I wanted was freedom. Being able to do whatever I wanted whenever I wanted was freedom. And that works for a long time until it doesn't anymore.
Yeah.
And that's where like Daddy Saturn has a few lessons of like,
Thanks,
actually,
thanks, thank.
exactly, boundaries are good for you, girl. Like, you actually like it a little bit when I'm strict with you. That's good for
Oh,
you. That means that you have a healthy life. So, but that's taken me some time. So I think what I mean when I say becoming an adult is like realizing that expectations uh, put on me, or having a routine, or doing things that are boring, or things that I don't feel like I want to do, can actually be really good for me. And the freedom that I was chasing was more immediate gratification.
ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And too much of that
Escapism, one would say.
escapism, yeah, and too much of that
Distractions.
makes me sad.
Yeah.
I realize. And that's, I think, becoming an adult is like learning to love taking care of myself even when it's boring. Learning to love providing for myself, even if it means it's not my dream job. But actually having, doesn't need to be about a job, but like for me, it's been about, okay, so you're actually, I was talking to a friend and I was complaining, like, oh, my life is not how I want it to be. I don't have the job that I like. It's not how I imagined it to be. I imagined this beautiful utopia of like me doing, and I guess I didn't really even have a clear view of what that was going to look like, but it was just better than whatever reality I was
Mhm.
in. And really complaining. And he gave me some tough love. He was like, he said, but have you have you done anything to be there? Have you done anything to like deserve those things? Do you feel like that's where you, if you look back on what you're doing, is that where you should be? And I was like, no, no.
But that's an interesting choice of words. Like, have you done anything
Mhm.
to deserve this? What do you think about that?
We did talk about the choice of words because I was like, but I do deserve that.
I mean, look at me.
Yeah.
Hair in my curls. What do you mean? Born for it.
Born for it, for success, for joy.
Mm-hmm.
No, but it was actually a really good thing. He kind of reality checked me a little bit, and I think that conversation made me realize, like, okay, what am I working for? Like, okay, so I have this job. It's providing me with money so that I can have stability. And every day that I go to this job, I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, I can change the job. I can like course correct. But I can also kind of take some power back. This is what I mean with like being like cracked into like an adult person, like is like I have some ownership of my day-to-day life. I have some ownership of what goes on in here. I'm not a victim of my circumstances. I can actually reclaim my power and I can decide to look for, and I'm not saying this if you're like in a really bad place. If you are somewhere you need to change your job, if you have a toxic boss, quit that job. But I didn't. It was a good job. I was just bored. I can decide to look for the good things.
Yeah.
Also, I can decide to make my day better.
Yeah.
And
I
I
love that.
think,
The power of choice.
yeah, yeah. So about becoming an adult for me is also it's about learning to love responsibilities, learning to be able to have the privilege to take care of myself.
The privilege.
Yes. And being okay with doing things that are hard or things that are difficult or even sometimes things that are boring.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of circling back to what we're saying about the joy in the mundane, like that's what I feel like, especially this Saturn return has been about for me is actually I love those things. I can make it joyful. And I can also hold, okay, maybe I am not exactly where I want to be. Maybe I don't have my dream job, but I can hold the vision of how that's going to look and hold here in my current reality. I can hold um, the frequency or the feelings of how my highest vision is going to be. Are you with me? Like
Oh yeah.
I can inhabit this joy in my body. I love when I call you for advice and you're like, okay, but how would so I'm talking to you about my desired outcome and this is where I am now and you're like, okay, but how would that feel to be there? Can you like find that feeling in your body now? So juicy. Yes, I can actually because it's available to me.
Yeah, yeah. It's in the
Mm.
sensation, right? That's the this not so secret trick of manifestation. And I feel like there can be a potential trap that if you are in touch with your vision, if you see where you're going, if you can feel what's on the other side of this journey, the desires that are announcing themselves as your future, calling you, waving at you, and then you're like, but why is it not here right now? I mean, yeah, yeah,
Mm.
it's in my body, but it's not in my surroundings. It's not in my
Mm.
reality. What about then? Because I've noticed that in
Mm.
myself, I'm very much in touch with my future visions.
Mhm.
And there can be impatience, there can be frustration. I can
Yeah.
fall into a little bit of that whining of like, yeah, but
Mm.
this is so hard, but I don't know, but I've been doing it
Mm.
all alone for so long and it's lonely and I don't want to do it like this anymore. Like
Yeah.
literally my voice, my posture change. I know when I go into that energy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Being small, acting small. You know that place?
Yes, yes. No. Do I know that place? I used to live there. I have a house there. What do you mean?
It's sold now.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Like,
No,
I moved
but
out.
that's why I love what you said. It's a choice you get to make, and that's a part of this maturity that Saturn brings to us. That yes, have trust in these bigger cycles of life, which Pisces Saturn is
Mhm.
here for, that you are supported by the invisible forces of nature and life, the universe that is reflecting back at you, that it lives inside of you, meaning that you are literally the spark of creation and you can create anything you can
Mhm.
probably believe and think of.
Yeah. And what
Right.
are the practical steps that we need to take to get there? Like,
Uh-huh.
that's the combining full circle moment. Like, that's the combining of the two
Yeah.
worlds. fantasy, the dream, the magical, and the practical,
Exactly.
here we are right now.
And it starts with your decision, with your reclamation, with your commitment and dedication. Oh my God, that even rhymed.
Yeah, I mean, give me a beat.
Right, right. And
Mm,
when you said, "Oh, but like, what are the expectations?" Either that we feel pressured by the world of
mm,
what we should be and what our success is supposed to look like. Like, what is even
mm,
success? What does that even mean? I want to ask you
yeah,
that in a second. But
yeah.
expectations that are not even like this fantasy land creation in our heads. For me, expectation is the unspoken, ungrounded perception
Mm,
of how reality should be like. But
mm,
actually, what we can do is create standards and hold ourselves accountable. And this is what creates integrity. When you
yes,
apply your values so that I don't whine, oh, why is this not working? But actually be mature about it and look, what is it not working?
yeah,
Practically,
yes,
statistically, maybe even though I want to get to it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
still the world we live in.
yeah.
What is that sacred labor that I need to apply that is going to support this rich, God-given
Yeah,
vision of mine? And how
no,
can I be
literally.
a responsible steward of it? My privilege to be
Mm,
able to take care of these sacred
mm-hmm.
visions that are guiding
Yes.
me.
And I think that's exactly what my friend tried to tell me on the phone. He's trying to say, like, okay, but what are you doing to get there?
What are
Like,
you
it's kind
choosing?
of, yeah, what are you choosing? And like, what is right? What are the practical steps I can take? Okay, so for me, for example, I didn't know what my highest vision was. I've always been, oh, where am I going? What am I going to do with my life? What is my sacred mission? What do I want? I don't know what I want. And
Over.
then kind of, huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I noticed your body language. It was all coming like up. Hands are up in and around the head because it's overthinking. It's not in
Yeah,
the body. And what are
it's not
you sacral authority? I forgot. Are you emotional
emotional.
authority? Yeah, okay. Then you
Emotional.
can be all over the place. It's okay.
Okay.
It's part of your process. Then weave and wave, baby.
Okay, good to know. But kind of scaling it a little bit back and not being okay, so maybe I don't know all of this, but I know how I want to feel in my day-to-day life. Okay, maybe I know not always what I want, but I know what I don't want.
Yes.
And so I can like work with what Saturn return for me. It's teaching me work with what you do know. Work with what is right in front of you. Do the things that you can do instead of getting all tangled up in everything that you can't do and that you don't know and that blah, blah, blah. Okay, there's a choice to kind of stay here in that little house over there, and being miserable and a victim. And then I can also actually choose to be like, okay, kind of sucks, but
Yeah.
what can I do? I can actually, you know what, let me start with cleaning my room.
Yeah.
Because it's
Well,
so boring to me before. Like, I remember writing my bachelor thesis and I couldn't get started. And I was going to see psychiatrist at the time was trying to tell me like, okay, but why don't you break it up into smaller, like, why don't you just start, doing one sentence a day? And I wasn't there to listen. I was just like, yeah, but that's so boring. I just want to, how am I gonna, I was addicted to being kind of hopeless,
so how
I
do you
think,
bring back? How do you come back?
from
But I don't wanna, and I just wanna.
for me, just staying in that state for way too long until I'm
Mm,
completely fed up by myself and I don't want to listen to myself anymore whine and be a victim. So I didn't have any other choice than to pick myself up from the hole that I dug for myself. Um, but I also think that
yes,
you don't
yeah.
have to go all the way down there. That's what I'm learning now. You don't have to go like rock bottom every time. You
It's your
can
Scorpio moon that loves the bottom a little bit. Like,
I love wallowing,
take me
wallowing in my
darkness.
sadness. Yeah.
Yes, but I think that's a good point. And I remember this is something you told me when I was in living in Norway and we were basically neighbors and almost. And I was whining about this situationship that I had going on. But at some point it was Valentine's Day and you came over with bagels and frappe and something like that. And we had tea and oh my God, it was
Hmm.
gorgeous. And I remember I was telling you about like this drama going on in my life, but we were both laughing at it because it was
Yeah.
so brutally ironic and banal. No, what is like it was just so
Yeah.
ridiculous that it was, you know, I couldn't be serious or sad about it. It was just like, what the fuck? I know better, yet I'm
Yeah.
still doing it. And maybe sometimes that is the medicine, to
Yeah.
actually have fun with it, to actually
Yeah.
find playfulness, cheekiness, make it kinky.
It's so good. It's
And
so
if you
good.
can do that,
Laughter.
I call that success.
Yeah, exactly. I guess just not taking yourself too seriously is what it's about also. Like, okay, you're here, because that's back to what I was saying about having a choice
Mm.
is you it doesn't have to be that serious. It's so hard to translate into words because it sounds like I'm saying, just think positive thoughts. Just think better. And it's like it has so many deeper layers, but I don't know how to say it out here, but
Well, I think you said it before. It's a
mhm,
question of what are you choosing? And that's
yeah.
not the pretty, positive, bypassing, spiritual, feathery stuff. It's not detachment in a sense of running away. It
Mhm,
is that maturity on in knowing what truly matters and putting your
mm,
energy focus and the right energetic alignment, the right intentionality into it. Because at the
mm,
end of the day, it's simple, but
yeah,
sometimes we need to do the whole kind of shebang to get to the same fucking thing that, you know,
yeah.
we knew or heard, were told since the beginning. And just one thing that I want to share on this topic of success before we slowly
Mm.
transition into like well, we'll see where. But something that I heard on a podcast recently, I think it's Just Step In podcast, a new podcast I just discovered, which I
Oh,
highly recommend. And I think it was
okay,
the
cool.
episode with Teal Swan, which I'm a fangirl. And I think the guy said, slow success builds character, fast success builds ego. And I
Yeah.
think being willing to go slow in this fast-paced world is a
Mhm,
mastery of its own, one that brings long-term rewards. And even
mm,
in the membership that I'm a part of, the House of Wealth, by Victoria Washington,
yeah.
she says that wealth is an accumulation of value over time. Over
Ooh,
all these trials, this thorny path, whether in your relationship and meeting all the wrong people and all the unavailable men and all
mm,
the money troubles, like wondering what your purpose, what your path is, where to leave, what to do. Like, what if you are accumulating the real value over
yeah,
time that will at some point stabilize?
yeah.
And and at the end of the road, what, not even at the end of the road, but
Mm.
down the
Further down the road, yeah.
yeah, you will know exactly what all of that has been about.
Yes. No, literally, I feel like that's a theme also, as we're talking about Saturn return, is finally being able to make some sense of the chaotic 20s. Like we're approaching 30 and I'm kind of looking back at all this chaos and maybe for the first time I'm like, "Ooh, okay, but I wouldn't be without it though.
Hmm.
'Cause without that, I wouldn't have this and I wouldn't have learned that." And yeah.
And at the
Yeah.
same time, we're kind of happy to be getting older.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? I love it. I love getting older.
Yeah, yeah. What a wonderful place to be. And that, my friend, is power too. In the world that wants to keep us dull, like actually owning up to your wisdom, to your experiences that we have gathered with the scars and the saggy parts of our bodies. It's like, that is wisdom. That is there
Ah,
anything else that you feel like you would like to share as an almost 30? We are approaching 29, so not really. Although I honestly feel like I'm already in my 30s. I act like it most
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah. The day I turned 25, I was 30 mentally, so no. Um,
mm,
um, well, you did try to get into the theme of my actual Saturn return in my seventh house about relationships. And one thing is like, yeah, I want to work with other people is something that I've realized, but also in my more personal relationships. So one thing now we've talked a lot about like what I want to do in the world, what is the job that we're going to do, and finding out how to build structure in my own life and in my very practical life. But a whole other lesson is how to do that within my intimate relationships
Mm.
and in my romantic relationship. And I'm coming to realize that even though it's been really hard and kind of tough to pull myself by the bootstraps, is that what they say? Like, kind of put myself together and be an adult and do the things I need to do. Something that can be even harder is when it's together with another person to continuously show up real, vulnerable. Even with someone that you're really close to, there are always new layers of vulnerability that can be really hard to open.
Yeah.
Um,
That's why they
and
say that conscious relationship is one of like the fastest routes to enlightenment because it's gonna mirror you the fuck down. Or
it
up,
is,
actually, hopefully up, not
yeah,
down.
hopefully, yeah. Well, both
Yeah.
probably. And like, so you and me, we have a very open and vulnerable relationship. For me, it feels really easy to be vulnerable with you. So sometimes it can be a shocker in my own romantic relationship when I meet spots within myself where it's hard to open up, where it's harder to soften and open my heart and be vulnerable, and like realizing, oh, shit, this shit is scary.
What's the difference? Like, why does it feel easier to open up to your girlfriends, your friends about these things versus
Mm.
your romantic partner?
Maybe it's um, because it can be more scary to feel like you can be left, perhaps.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
I don't know. That's my first thought because maybe it's more of like a what if he leaves me? Or
What if the friend lives?
nah, she won't. No, I'm kidding. I don't know.
Then let her walk away.
Yeah,
I'll
no,
walk away.
no.
You what, my ass?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
No, I don't know. It's just a different type of container for me where I've always or no. I don't know. I guess these are the things that I'm learning, and so that's why
yeah.
it's also easier to talk about work, what I'm doing, where we're going, and I guess these are the lessons that I'm currently learning and figuring out.
Well, in your Gene Keys
Mm.
profile, the sphere of vocation will point towards the deepest woundings that we have incarnated with. It's
Mm.
connected to our epigenetics. It's what has been there at our birth, has kind of formed already in our womb.
Mm.
And for you, it's the shadow of dishonesty that builds into the gift of intimacy and
Oh.
the city of transparency. And I think it's just interesting how this dishonesty with ourselves, with others, when we actually don't allow ourselves to be seen through intimacy, right? Into me, you see.
Ooh.
Um, yeah, how are you feeling that in what we were
Mm.
saying?
Ooh. I thought we were kind of like rounding up, so I was
Yeah,
gonna
me
say,
too, but this can be
yeah,
part two, baby.
I was thinking like I was gonna round up and like, so that podcast episode will be, after we're done with our Saturn return, then I'll drop some knowledge about this because right now I don't know. Ooh, hitting me with the deep end. Hmm. Yeah.
I guess in romantic partnerships, yeah, ideally we want to meet in from this wholeness, but usually we're gonna be shown where we are still not fully
Yeah.
uh, filled by love, right? It's the love that wants to fill us up. It's the God that we want to be filled with, especially if you're a feminine creature. I guess for the masculine core, it's more about emptying, emptying, emptying. For us,
Mm.
it's like fill me, fill me, fill me, insatiable, give me more. Um, So maybe it might be that, fearing that
Yeah.
it's not gonna be filled, that there is gonna be this emptiness, this empty.
Yeah. Yes, I feel like you're touching something there. I'm like, it's making sense to me. Um, but I really do feel what I said earlier, like that is something that I'm living it now. I'm figuring it out now. I am in a deeply committed relationship right now, and we are mirroring each other and figuring it out. And so, yeah, I don't think I have
So can I
any
ask
way.
you then
Yeah.
a closing question?
Yes, yes.
What are you committed to when it comes to love, connection, and perhaps your purpose?
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah.
3 other podcast episodes.
Yeah. Exactly, exactly.
I said it's never enough for the feminine. And if you
Okay.
can own it, then it doesn't have to be a lack. It can just be
Yeah.
an excitement.
Yeah. I am committed to deepening into integrity and honesty in my life, in my relationships, in my work. And that encompasses a lot of things. Um, it encompasses a promise to myself to keep peeling off the layers of my illusions or disillusions of what I think I need to be for others, of what I have come to believe that I need to do in order to be accepted. So sort of this honesty towards my like inner essence, and to be in contact with that, and to do the things that I need to do to be in contact with that inner essence. It's continuing to deepen honesty in my relationships, to be able to speak my truth even when it's hard, to be able to not diminish myself or to not share my joy if I'm scared that it's gonna, or share my light if I'm scared that it's gonna scare people away.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
it's deepening and continuing to following my values, or like to deepen in honesty in my work is to kind of follow my joy, my curiosity, to not follow the path of what is the smartest thing to do, or what is the most valued in other people's eyes, but to actually keep doing the work to figure out what's important for me. Yeah, so like honesty and integrity, those we could have a whole podcast just talking about those things because it encompasses a lot, and it's definitely a journey to embody these values, because there's always deeper layers that I can go into about it, and I'm continuously discovering new layers like in my own life where maybe I haven't been honest, or where I'm not being fully honest. Yeah, so it's
Wow.
like a journey, but it's one that I'm committed to. Yes.
Wow. I would drop the mic, but it's already broken, so I won't.
I'll
Wow.
drop these hot pink ones. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty. Wow. Wow, Eline, that was absolutely incredible. I really deeply felt that. Thank you for sharing, and I feel activated and inspired by that. Also to, I feel this is such a big one to look at all of the ways
Yeah.
that we are being dishonest with ourselves, because that's the root of fragmentation. That is what often doesn't allow this smooth sailing path, because we are being pulled into different direction by the unconscious forces, by different desires that we have that might be in conflict.
Mm.
One protecting us, the other one kind of pushing through. So this
Yeah.
self-honesty and integrity, which also integrity to me says it's not only energetic, emotional, and mental clarity, but it's also
Mm.
doing this action, aligned action
Yeah.
we have been talking about throughout this episode. So I
Mm.
love that.
Mm.
And just
Yeah.
to bring this to a close, I just want to say I feel like you've been really showing up for your Saturn return themes, and it's so beautiful to witness that. Well done, girl. Not that you need anyone's validation, but we see
I
you.
love it. So
I see you. Yeah, I see you and I cheer you
yeah.
on and I love you in all your colors. And just one little piece that I feel like it's really something that Saturn in Pisces is inviting us as humanity is self-forgiveness as well, or forgiveness in general, which is one of such a beautiful forms of love. Because if
Mm,
we don't forgive, then I think it's really hard to move on.
yeah.
Then all of that, those grudges, shame, guilt, whatever it is, even like in this notion of what is right, what is wrong, what did we do right, what we did wrong, that can really keep us stuck. So with the
Mm,
self-honesty, I think comes also forgiveness
hmm.
for what we didn't know and what we get to choose now with what
Yeah.
we do know. And
Yes.
forgiveness that maybe in some ways you're not able to choose something yet, and
Yeah.
trusting that you are working towards more of this spaciousness, peace, integrity, whatever.
Yeah. Accepting where you are, work with where you are now, with what you have.
Yeah.
Mm,
And that
mm,
is usually what allows you to move forward.
yeah.
Ironically.
Yeah. No, really.
Oh, thank you so much
Ah,
for sharing your
wow.
so beautifully. It was
Wow.
an honor to talk to you, and hopefully we get to do more of that sometime.
Yeah, I mean, that would be really cool, wouldn't
That would
it?
be really cool.
Yeah.
Ahlan.
Oh, cool.
I
Thank you
would love
so
to
much.
know how can people find you, and is there a way for them to also maybe experience your breathwork, uh, your
Yeah.
magic?
Definitely. So as of right now, I have followed my intuition and started working together with other people.
Yeah,
So me and my two friends and colleagues, Kari and Gabrielle, we have created Pustekollektivet. It's like the breath
that's like a
collective.
pussy collective. I love it.
Yeah,
But it's not. What
yeah,
does it
true.
mean? What does it mean?
It does not mean a pussy collective.
Although,
It's like a breath collective. We've recently just started, so you can follow us on Instagram. It is in Norwegian, so that would be for my Norwegian babes. But I also have my personal Instagram page where I share a few things from time to time. As per now, we don't have an online offer, but I mean, follow the space if you're interested because we do share a lot of tips and tricks and things. And if you are in Trondheim or Oslo area in Norway, I do breathwork sessions. So that would be a good place to find me. Yeah,
and I imagine sooner or later in one of the other spaces in the world that I'm gonna be, I will bring your ass there. And
exactly.
whenever I have something bigger going on, like a retreat or
Like you
something,
do.
I want you there. Uh,
Yeah.
and maybe like
Yeah.
come, I'm gonna organize your breathwork tour.
She's an organizer, y'all. I wanted actually to say, like, the amount of support I just get from you in this, we're doing a podcast and I'm getting like a personalized reading from you,
Oh.
like sorting my life out, one thing at a time. And so I wanted to say to the
Hmm.
people who are listening, like, that's what she does, you
Oh.
know? You need some perspective, you need a broader perspective, you need just a little spank to get you going. This is this
So
is the
I'm
woman
just
for it.
Thank you. I'm just gonna say it because people who have stayed up until this point of the podcast are the real ones. So I dare to.
Yeah.
I love how we had a conversation yesterday and you were like telling me about something, and I was literally lying naked in a robe on my bed and I was like caressing my ass, and you were like, girl, you're like in your coach mode now. Like and I was just like, no, I'm just being well fucked right now.
Yeah. Like you were dropping truth bombs to me. You're like, like I'm just calling her to get some advice on a life situation. And she's like freaking channeling the advice to me, telling me, like putting my perspectives, reorganizing. Oof, so good. Yeah.
That's because we mirror each other well and there's openness to
Yeah.
it. There's honesty.
Yeah.
Oh, we're
Also because
open to
you're
honesty.
really good at what you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll
You
take
know?
it. I'll
Yeah.
take it.
Yeah.
It's pleasure medicine, I'm gonna say. Say it like that.
Yes.
Alrighty. Thank you, Elena. I'm gonna be posting all of the links to for people to connect with you in the show notes below. And who knows, maybe we get to boogie it out again sometime. Butterfly kisses.